great job. Absolutely. That's the challenge. That's why we got this long name when we decided to get married. But I feel a little bit odd one out in this discussion, or in this, because there is no button for me in the app. There is no one to be saying, okay, academic, researcher. But this is what I am. But I also am according to Swedish law, I'm also a civil servant to Sweden. I'm also originally from Estonia and have embraced a lot of those digital technologies that you've been listening about and raving about. But throughout my academic career, every now and then, I come back to the question, okay, digital technologies are cool. They make people's lives better, they make things easier, but still not everyone uses them. And not everyone is really happily embracing them. So address this question on the individual level and on a also professional level. So this is going to be one of those talks where I'm going to take it more on the institutional level. If you are a government institution and for some reason the stuff that works elsewhere really doesn't work in your country or really doesn't work in your situation. So I'm going to try to highlight some of the things what might be wrong, but also maybe a few solutions how we can overcome this kind of challenge. So, it's going to be a very specific case about lovely technologies developed in Estonia. You probably have not heard about this one. It is a secure multi-party computation, and it's really a mouthful to pronounce. But it is about how we can privately compute data without disclosing any individual personal stuff. So we can, for instance, couple together people's tax information and people's educational level to figure out, for instance, does education pay off? Without, at the same time, making too broad generalizations, leaving out about, rough estimations show about 20% of data gets left out on this kind of broad generalizations when we try to anonymize everything, but working with blinding the data from the different parties, but everybody maintains the control of their own party. It's also a possibility for instance, 3, 4, 5, 6 competing companies to work together, keeping their own data private and secure, but generating aggregated data between all 3, 4, 5, 6 experiences. What's the best price for sugar, or how do we navigate rockets in space so that they don't collide, but not really telling Russia and China really don't want to tell each other where their rockets are, but they really don't want them to collide either. So this is a possibility to share data that really must remain private, at the same time making aggregated conclusions based on that. So that's the sort of background. And what I'm going to talk about is based on a university and small and medium-sized enterprise cooperation done by EU. And we worked with an application which is called ShareMine. You can Google it. They're really, really cool. But they're doing this kind of analytics, and we were called as social scientists to help them figure out, okay, we have this absolutely fantastic technological applications. Where could we find good uses for it in society? And so we went out, did interviews, and came back with some hope, but also some doom and gloom, in saying, yeah, the fact that you have such a cool technology matters actually quite a little when it comes to the final adaptations. So we came up with 3 types of concerns, or 3 types of problems. There is a question or a challenge about what users perceive, what is that they need. There is the capabilities of given technology, and this is the easiest. This is the cool technology. This is about developing app or developing tech that works. And on this, my model, this is going to be the easy part. The other parts are going to be the more difficult ones. And then there is contextual concerns. So I'm going to go one by one, discussing each of those 3 concerns in a very sort of brief and concise manner to keep it in time. So, capabilities of given technology is, of course, very important. This is what tech people focus on. This is what they are really good at. They are thinking, how can we make tech that works and is cool and is relevant? But it's also about whether people who participate or who are going to be the users, do they recognize those capabilities? Do we understand? In this case, where we're doing the secure multi-party computation, the challenge was that it was unlike any other technology that was before. And then how to try to sort of explain a big, complex crypto black box to people who really don't get it. And they say, okay, is it like anonymization? Something totally different. But it's really, really difficult when people don't have models to work with. And therefore, a lot of times technology developments, instead of going to the user and saying, hey, what do you need? You provide, this is what we could do for you, and then the user can negotiate, and then the user can add to that. Otherwise, they'll just sort of, for instance, get to digitize existing processes rather than taking the extra step to really develop something that's radically different or radically new. So technologies are always viewed in existing framework, and people will only recognize technologies that they can somehow relate to. Is it like this? And an example that you might want to sort of relate to is word editing documents. They are always structured as paper. There's not necessarily need for it to be structured like paper, but in order for easy recognition and in order for the digital analog transportations, they are structured like paper. So a lot of times we design our thinking and we frame our thinking as paper or as something existing in the way. So in our case, the technology was definitely the way we conceptualize privacy. What do we understand? What is privacy? But also the way we are thinking about what do we do. And then instead of thinking how we could do it differently, we're thinking how can we do the things that we already do better with the new technology. So that's a challenge I think a lot of e-governance or governance applications are also facing. So instead of thinking about how can we take away some of the governance, we're thinking how can we translate the existing governance patterns into digital format. So there is also an important consideration whenever you're thinking about the technology. You have to figure out, is there a task technology fit? Do people recognize that stuff that you do is actually worth the effort? Because everyone's as lazy as they can be. They want to sort of sit in their comfort zones and do. It was quite easy to sign a document, move from one pile to another, sign a document, move from one pile to another. And now you want to take away the signing of the document part. How is that going to make sense? So they have to really see that their lives are going to get better and that their sort of efforts to put in adaptation of the new technology is really, really, for instance, it's really horrible to think about developing a really fancy technology that is going to be used maybe once a year or once in 5 years. It's much more better to start thinking about stuff that's regularly used by people. Also, there is indeed sufficient need for resources. People really have to feel that the resources that they put into developing new technology will have enough return soon enough. But also there has to be time and experience and commitment by the people who adopt this technology. And then, of course, the challenge is that the technology that you're going to propose doesn't actually fit the task. And that's where the different demo applications and your first proposals become really crucial, because that's where you communicate whether they fit the task or not. So, and then there's a question about, do we have the resources or not? Then we have the questions about contextual concerns. And this is where policy making, but also journalism can really help to make a change, because how well a technology is developed to fit a particular societal context becomes really crucial. Because there are institutional and social contexts which are absolutely important. There is the legal frameworks, the institutional regulations, norms and ethics, and people will say, yeah, this technology really doesn't suit us because we are used to do things differently. or this is not a problem. We were trying to sort of argue that statistics office could use this multi-party secure computations, and statistics office said, no, we don't really need to. We have laws in place which make that every organization has to give us the data, so we're not really concerned about their privacy. And we were going like, what? How can you not be concerned about these kind of things? But they were, yeah, the law is a law, and therefore the law already protects an existing practice, and therefore in order to challenge existing practice, you might need to start from the legal perspective instead of the technological perspective. So the potential barriers are, again, low entry barrier is good, sufficient usability, people recognize, but there is also that sometimes the things are not really, like the management support, the lower bit there, that becomes super crucial. In the military sector, if the commander says, we're going to do it, everyone's going to do it. If it's less structured organization than military, then the management support might mean a bit different things. But in military, if the top line says go, then everyone goes. And then is the user perceived needs. It's the fact that your users, your end users, your organization users, they have to recognize that this is something that they really want to do. So the peer pressure and sector pressure becomes really, really crucial. And if you have a monopoly, they are not really innovative that much because they are quite comfortable in their positions, what they do and how they function. So the user barriers can be about information, communication, demonstration that this is good, this is something useful. And a lot of people say, yeah, we'll wait and see. It's a really nice application that you've got, but we'll wait and see. We'll need others to adopt first because we don't really want to be the frontliners in many cases. And then there are also sometimes functional substitutes that already exist. For instance, if there's an auditing company or a trusted third party, they say, no, we don't really need to innovate in privacy because we can just sort of dump it on someone else's ground. So privacy in general is sometimes seen as a trade-off. We say, okay, we can give all that data to those third parties because we get enough in return, and therefore selling or arguing for a privacy-preserving technology becomes super complicated. But, and then sometimes people say, yeah, isn't that an overkill of technological applications? You're trying to propose a huge complex technology to solve what is just a minor inconvenience in people's everyday life. That's not really going to fit really well. But can we sort of bring some kind of silver lining in that discussion? And some of those uncertain conditions, some of those we don't really know how to make this work situations can be solved what's called by strategic niche management. And there, the private and public sector cooperation becomes really crucial. Because in that kind of private-public sector corporations, those strategic niches can be created where new innovative technologies can be proposed, they can grow, they can mature, they can get the visibility, they can overcome the wait and see barriers, and then they are able to be adopted by a larger proportion of people. So that's it from me. You're welcome to ask me questions or send them by email.
My question was about how did Sweden in general overcame this age barrier when implementing digital concept for seniors, for its senior citizens? Because in Romania they are quite reluctant, even when asked to give their personal data when completing a form or a questionnaire. So how can this be transferred way easily in the digital area?
Okay, this is kind of outside my real immediate expertise area, but one of the experiences at the moment, more from Estonian than Swedish experience, is that what often works in these cases is the networkedness of the technologies themselves. So So the more senior citizens can be supported in adopting to new technologies by their younger family members. That's called through soft expertise. So just bringing a very personal example, my mother ages ago started using email when I moved to another country because that was the only way she could cheaply communicate to me. So to have these kind of immediate personal networks are much easier to sort of, so it is to support people in starting the personal communications first, and only then we can go to public communication, because the senior citizens, they will need to communicate with their friends and family. They don't necessarily need to communicate with their city government officials. So that's to sort of support people where their need is, and only then come with additional applications. Okay, now you can use Skype to chat with your grandchildren. Maybe you want to also fill in a form to do your taxes. So to start off with something that's of immediate benefit to the people, and demonstrate that through the personal experiences of other people.
You answered 2 questions with 1 hit. Any other questions? No. Thank you very much.